A memo from Bank of America executive shows that the bank warns that more people need to lose their job. That's their memo. It's better if more people lose their job because then there's competition. And you see, if you have one job and you have 5 people competing for the one job, that's better? It's better for the Chamber of Commerce, right? Because we can hold down wages, we can hold down benefits. That's what this is all about, right?
Yeah, it really is. And you hit it on the head there, because what Bank of America wants is 5 people for every job opening, not one job or 5 job openings for every one person, which is what we're looking at in an economy right now. Not necessarily that ratio, but there's more job vacancies than job seekers, which means the job seekers can be choosy. They can say, I don't want to go work for Bank of America. You pay horrible wages. I'm going to go work for this other company. So Bank of America loses out. They have a position still needs to be filled. So what do they have to do? They have to raise their wages and increase their benefits to attract more people.
But if you got 5 people going after the one job, you say, I'm sorry, Mary, I'm sorry, Joe, we just don't pay that much. We don't pay minimum wages. We pay slave wages. We don't give you insurance. We don't give you any benefits. But you know what? If you don't want the job, there's 5 people right behind you. That's what this memo is about.
Yeah.
And I love The Intercept. I don't think there's a better, to me, that organization, the reporting there is excellent. And they did another excellent job here, and they just got it right. They talked about something, you had to take, economics. We had to study Adam Smith. I had to study Adam Smith. And I forgot what he said until I saw it in this article. But I remember this issue coming up in that course. And he says, look, it's not high wages that are the problem. That's what he said, because an economy builds from the bottom up. That if you give people high wages, it improves the entire economy, GDP, everything. He said the problem is high profits. He says because high profits is where things go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bank of America is still making money hand over fist, as most Wall Street banks are. And they want desperation. They want somebody so desperate for a job because there's no other options that they're willing to go and work for these horrendous wages, the horrible conditions, the long hours with no overtime, whatever it is. But we don't have that right now. And even economists, these horrible economists that we have in this country, are telling us, no, we need more unemployment to help with inflation. No, we don't. We have to get to the heart of it, which is this corporate greed, to address that issue.
Bludgeon the worker back in line. That's what this is about. Bludgeon the worker back in line. And the economy doesn't benefit because there's no money coming in at the bottom of the economy to build from the bottom up. Adam Smith is right. That's what he was talking about when he talked about this very thing. Dick Cheney's getting a political makeover for his former critics, all because they don't like Donald Trump. This story, okay, let me put it into perspective. This is a man who was actually regarded by all the media as Darth Vader because he was responsible for the big lie that killed 1 million people in Iraq. He drove that train. He created all the subterfuge that allowed us to go into Iraq. And he controlled the media even. You think back on Iraq, think about CNN and Fox, and they've got these big maps on the floor, and Dick Cheney says this, and Dick Cheney was the guy most responsible for the Iraq disaster. Now he is the hero. He is absolutely the hero of the Democrats. These people who've said, my God, he's awful. Well, apparently not.
Yeah, and even Dick Cheney's horribleness goes, way further back than Iraq with Iran-Contra. He was in the Nixon administration. And all the while, from Nixon until he left office, his whole idea was, let's expand the power that the president has.
If you expand the power of the president, we can pick a war wherever we want. We're not going to have Congress getting in our way. And a Halliburton connection, how many billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars did Halliburton make in Iraq? Well, who was in charge of that? Yeah. The Dick.
Exactly.
The Dick was in charge of that. But now the Dick is the hero. He's the absolute hero of not only just middle of the road Democrats, but progressives. All because he hates Trump. And his crazy daughter hates Trump. And his crazy daughter, if you look at her history, will scare the bejesus out of you.
Right. And she still voted with the entire Republican Party over 93% of the time. So there really is no daylight between any of these people. But the funny thing is, talking about the rehabilitation of this guy, back in January, when he shows up at Congress for the 1-year anniversary of January 6th, he gets a standing ovation. Like the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, everybody stand up. Oh my God, we love you.
It's insane. It's insane. Look, here's what really set me off. He goes from being Darth Vader. Do you realize the Washington Post said that between him and his daughter, they are the new Obi-Wan Kenobi? They are, I'm not making up. The Washington Post says, yes, these folks are like the Obi-Wan Kenobi come to save this republic. Now, how do you get there?
Well, you get there because all you have to do is come out and say, hey, I hate Donald Trump too. He's a really bad guy, so I am your best friend. Forget about all those pictures from Abu Ghraib. Forget about Gitmo.
By the way, he invented Abu Ghraib. I mean, he's the guy who made Abu Ghraib happen because of what you said. He said the president has the ability to do that. We don't need Congress. This guy is a war pig. And the other part of the story people don't know, the dick here, well, the dick in 2000 election, he was the guy who was tapped to go find a vice president. Well, it just so happens he appointed himself as that person, the vice president, because his relationship with Halliburton, he knew he was going to make a ton of money if he could just start another war that cost us 1 million lives, and God knows how much money.
But what's really disturbing about this is that he's not the only one who's had this image makeover.
Yeah.
All of these other individuals, I mean, George W. Bush, he was so cute handing Michelle Obama a piece of candy at Trump's inauguration. We love him now. He couldn't figure out how to put on his raincoat, so he's hilarious. He's just painting his beautiful pictures. His approval rating is back up into the 70s.
Was it 40 when we were talking about how disgusting the guy was?
Yeah.
The same thing had happened with Avenatti. You've done story after story on Avenatti. Dems, I love this guy. Well, okay, he was caught stealing money from clients to the tens of thousands, actually millions of dollars stealing from clients. But he was the Democratic guy. Then you had Scaramucci, right?
Yeah.
Tell me that story.
Anthony Scaramucci, who lasted, the famous 10 days as Donald Trump's press secretary, was so excited to be there. We're making America great again. Then he gets fired and says, well, I hate Trump now. And so all of the liberal podcasters say, well, come on to my show and let's talk about how bad Trump is.
How about Michael Cohen?
Oh, my God.
Okay, tell them. This is another love story that develops with the Democrats because he's willing to say, I hate Trump.
Right.
So,
Michael Cohen spends 20 years of his life fixing all of Donald Trump's legal problems. Wanting to live the high life like he sees Trump doing, taking money here and there, absolute just scumbag. But then he gets busted and now he says, well, I hate Trump too now. So the liberals once again say, well, come on over to our side, buddy. You're our best friend.
Well, the dick, he is now the new face of the Democratic Party, if you believe what you're seeing. I can't even believe what I'm seeing. Farron, thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this week, but all of these segments are going to be available the coming week right here on this channel, and you can follow us on Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where every week we tell you the stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers won't let them or their political connections don't allow for you. So we're going to see you next week, I hope.